Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the Terminator lab. This is the video number 40. I've been discussing in the previous video the following. I've been still working on how to deploy Windows 10 using the latest Microsoft deployment toolkit, and this is part 19. The previous one was part 18. We have finished the task of capturing different operating systems and their installed applications. So for example, we have captured an image of Windows 10 in addition to the programs installed on it, like PowerShell 7, like CMTrace, like Edge. All of these are captured in one image. Its extension is .wim image, which we will today will prepare it to be imported to the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit console, and then use it or tell the MDT to deploy it through making something called deployment task sequence. So this is the basic thing that we will do today. We will discuss how we can deploy the image that we have captured the last video or the previous video. So today we will make 3 deployment tasks. We have 3 images captured. I have only recorded the capturing of one image, which was Windows 10 and its accompanied applications like I said before, PowerShell 7 and so on. So we have 3 captured images. One is Windows 10 Pro 22H2, I think, or 21HY, I don't remember. This is the first thing, and we have another image which is Windows 10 Enterprise LTSC 2021. We have already an image, captured an image of it, and all of the programs, the same programs that were installed in Windows 10 Pro, we have done the same, or these are the same programs. And the last captured image, which is for Windows Server 2022, we have also the same programs installed on them, PowerShell 7 and so on. So we have 3 captured images. We need to import them to the MDT console and prepare a task for every captured image to be deployed to a workstation or to a server. So we need to do that. Okay, so today we will discuss the first task, which is to deploy Windows 10 Pro. We need to create in the MDT a deployment task sequence to deploy the captured Windows 10 Pro image that we have captured in the previous video. So we all know that the capture process is basically done, or it is divided into a couple of steps. First of all, when the MDT or when the PC begins communicating with the WDS or the MDT, the first thing that we will see, or the first thing that we will encounter, is this welcome screen. If you didn't configure the bootstrap.ini to display this welcome screen, it will not appear. So for example, we have today in our bootstrap.ini, we tell it not to display this screen. This screen is basically you are telling the MDT where is the folder that contains the captured image and what user and password you should use to get to this captured image. Okay, and this captured image is on a shared folder in a domain. So we need to provide an Active Directory username that will be able to access the shared folder in the domain. So we can see here, for example, this is the location of the folder that contains the capture image, and here we'll tell him to skip BBD welcome. This is called BBD welcome screen. So you tell him to skip it, and then we use these credentials to access this shared folder that contains the capture image. So this is the first thing that we will encounter after creating the MDT task and begin to implement it. The first thing we will encounter, or we will bypass, or we will pass, or we will begin processing the bootstrap.ini. Okay, this is the first thing. And the second thing after that, we will choose the deployment task sequence. We have 3, as we have said before. And then the other process is to begin processing the deployment task sequence. So this is the deployment task sequence. We contain a lot of things we will discuss today. So the first thing in the MDT process, deployment, to process the bootstrap.ini, then go to the section of choosing the deployment task sequence, then begin processing the custom setting.ini. You are here not processing the full custom setting.ini, but you are you are only implementing the first half of it, okay, which tells the MDT some setting that will be applied automatically, for example, the keyboard layout, the time zone, and so and so, the WSOS server. Okay, all of this will be done by the custom setting of .ini, and then we will begin the process of deployment of the captured image, and then after that, at last, we will, after implementing the image, it will reboot, and then you can use the image successfully. Where is the reboot section? It is at the end here. Instead of finish action shutdown, you will see a restart. So basically the process of the deployment will begin processing the bootstrap.ini. Then it should give you a list to choose the deployment task sequences. Then it will go and begin processing the custom setting.ini, a part of it, and then after processing it, it will go and begin the installation, or this part that is processed, it is the installation of the operating system, and the custom setting will contain some settings that will be applied automatically, like the keyboard and the time zone. And after finish of the installation of the operating system, or the not the operating system in this case, the captured image of the operating system and the programs installed on it. After finishing it, it will go again to the custom setting.ini and see the last section to reboot and to get the summary section, and so on. So this is basically the whole process. So first, or let me show you all, we will begin, or we will see that Daniel brother have already we are following his footsteps concerning this deployment and capture process. Here we can see that after here we can see he will tell import captured.wim files. These are the images captured. You will import it to the deployment share. Remember, we have two folders: the capture share, which we have used or we have dedicated it for the capture process, and the deployment share that we will dedicate it for the deployment process. So here we need to create 1 2 3 4 5 6. Here he is having, or he will create 6 task sequence. We will not create 6 task sequence because basically I will only make a deployment task sequence for Windows 10 Pro and Windows 10 LTSC, okay, because I have only two operating systems, Windows 10 Pro and Windows 10 LTSC, okay. Through some scripts we can change this version from Pro to Enterprise, okay. So in the deployment task sequence concerning Windows 10 Pro, it will implement the captured image of Windows 10 Pro, and through the deployment process of this image we will change it from Pro to Enterprise. And then we have another one for deployment of Windows 10 LTSC, because I don't have the hardware requirement to install Windows 11. And at the end we will make another task for deployment Windows Server Standard Edition, and through this task, or we can change it from standard to data center. So I have only 3 tasks. Here he has more than 1 task because he wants to install or implement the Windows 10 Pro image on a PC, and then install it again on another PC and change it to Enterprise, and the same for the Windows 11, okay. And for the standard edition for Windows Server, you will implement 2 servers, one standard and the other, it is a standard as well, but it will be changed to data center. So we will see how we can or what is the task. We have something called deploy Windows 10. This is the task sequence or the deployment task sequence for Windows 10, and the deployment task sequence for Windows Server. And here is the bootstrap.ini for the deployment. Here we can see that we are pointing to, it's supposed to point to the deployment share, which will contain the imported images, okay, that we, or contain the images that we have captured the last video. So this had made a problem with me because I was not pointing to the correct folder. It should point to the deployment share, which we will through it, or we will put the imported images in it. Okay, so this is the basic, or this is the first thing we need to see the bootstrap.ini, and this is the custom setting.ini. We will discuss it one by one. We will see what are the steps that the MDT will follow. Okay, and after that we will discuss the two task sequences. Okay, so let's begin first with the bootstrap.ini explanation. Here you can see this is Claude A2 or Claude AI. We can see I have given him this bootstrap and tell him to explain this MDT, and here is giving me an explanation. Here is the simple explanation of the bootstrap.ini. Setting indicates the start of the setting section. This is the setting of the bootstrap. Priority equal default means it will use the setting in the default section. So here in the priority, you can tell him to process more than one setting. But here you are telling him the priority is for the default setting or the section default. You can maybe have more than one setting. So for example, you may have a default and default 2, for example. So I'm telling him the priority is for the default section. Okay, default indicates the start of the default setting section. Then deploy route defines the network share where the deployment files are located. This is basically what we are talking about. Skip BBD welcome equal yes will skip the welcome wizard when deploying. The welcome wizard, this is the welcome wizard. Okay, and by skipping it, you are not skipping it and not answering or not filling the blanks, but you are telling him to fill the blanks with this data. User ID will be filled here, user password will be filled here, domain will be filled here, and at the end the share folder. Okay, or the shared folder. Okay, so this is basically, here is telling us user ID, user password, and user domain specify the credentials to access the network share. So in summary, the bootstrap.ini file is configuring MDT to deploy from this location, network share location, using the MDT build account credentials, and to automatically skip the welcome wizard. The default section contains the main setting that will be used when deploying. Okay, so this is basically a very simple explanation, but I tell him to explain it more in a simple way. So again, here is saying that the file has two sections, setting and default. Setting just states that the default setting will be used. Very simple. Default contains the actual setting. Deploy route, this is the network location where all deployment files and folders are stored. And here is the network share called so and so. Skip BBD welcome equal yes. This setting will skip the welcome screen that normally pops up when you deploy an image, the one that I showed you earlier. It will go straight to the deployment. User ID, password, user domain. This setting provides the username, password, and domain that will be used to connect to the deployment route network share. Okay, here is the username, which is mdt.build, password is so and so, and the domain is skynet.internal. So in simple terms, the bootstrap.ini is providing the location of the deployment files on the network, credentials to access that location, and is configured to skip the welcome wizard when deploying an image. Another explanation with another way more simple than the first one. So this is Claude 2 AI explanation. Let's see Google Bard explanation. So again, I tell him to explain this bootstrap.ini file, and here is the answer of Google Bard AI.
Sure. Here is an even simpler explanation of the MDT bootstrap link to .ini file. This file tells the computer where to find the files it needs to install Windows. The files are located on a shared folder called Capture Share on the computer named SKNHQMF01. The computer will use the username MDT build and the password SARK_2022 to access the shared folder. The computer will skip the welcome screen during the installation process. I hope this is more helpful.
So you can see more more simple one. If we can copy this, let me show you all. If you can ask Copilot, okay, here we can see we can ask Copilot the same, and let's see what will be his answer. So we can copy it like that and then put it here and tell him to explain it. So as we can see here, most of the AI tools will help you to understand a lot of things more directly and in a more efficient way than to search in search engines. Okay, so we can see, let's see what is his answer. I think the most convenient answer for me, or more simple one, is the one for the Cloud 2 AI. So let's see what was the answer. The bootstrap file you have shared is a configuration file used by Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. It is used to control the behavior of the deployment process. Here is a simple explanation. Setting and default are sections in the .ini file. The priority equal default under setting means that the setting under the default section will be applied. So this is basically what we were talking about. Deploy so and so specifies the network location where the deployment files are stored. Okay. Skip BBD welcome is an instruction to skip the welcome screen in the MDT wizard. So basically, this is the MDT wizard. It tells him to skip this window. Okay, so let's go and continue. And this section are the credentials used to connect to the deployment share. Please note that storing passwords in plain text in the configuration file as seen here is not a secure practice. So again, this is a good hint. It was not given by Claude or Google Bard. Okay, it is recommended to have more secure methods for handling these credentials. Let's ask him how we can secure these credentials in this example. So let's see what will be the answer. Okay, as you can see here that the recommendations is to use MDT database. I have already ordered. We will do this solution. We will create an MDT database so we can store the credentials in the MDT database instead of the bootstrap.ini. This way the credentials are not exposed. I will do this solution, or I will already implement this solution. The second solution is to use secure password encryption. Instead of storing password in plain text, you can encrypt it. However, this method still have potential security risk as the encryption key need to be stored somewhere. Okay, so use integrated authentication. If the deployment share is on a Windows server, you can use Windows integrated authentication. This way, you don't need to store the credentials in a file. So I am curious how we can implement this too. So we need to or the AI should tell us how we can do these two steps. Prompt for credentials. This is basically simple. We can tell the MDT to prompt for credentials. This way the credentials are not stored anyway. So we do not skip the BBD welcome and ask it to prompt for credentials. So this is a very simple one, but this will you should the user should interact with the deployment process, and we don't need this to be done. Okay, so this is, it is secure, but it is not efficient, or it will not help us to automate the deployment process. Use a service account. Create a service account with minimal permissions required to access the deployment share. This way, even if credentials are compromised, the impact is limited. So this is basically another solution we can implement. Remember, security is not just about securing the credential, but also about limiting the potential damage if the credentials are compromised. Always follow the principle of least privileges. Give accounts only the permission they need and nothing more. It is a good practice to regularly update these credentials. So, for example, if tell him how we can, or give me the steps, me the steps, or give me the technical steps to implement recommendation number 2 and 3. So let's see. So let's see. Okay, here is the steps. First, you need to encode your password. Use simple online tool to convert the password to a base string. Okay, let's see the steps. Okay, let's see the steps. The steps here is saying that you should use first you need to encode your password. You can use a simple online tool to convert your password to a base 64 string. For example, the string hello becomes so and so when encoded in so. In your bootstrap file, replace the plain text with the encoded string. Okay, then you need to create a user uh, exit script that decodes the encoded password and uh, and store this in the proper task sequence variable. So here he think he's given us a link to do so. So let's see what this should, or if he is giving us, I think yes, he's giving us the way to do that. So encoding sensitive data, here this is the link to do so. Okay, so we can see these are the steps. Okay, so this is basically a very good way, or how we can use the AI to help us to explain things and to give us recommendations. Okay, so this is basically how we can do that. You can read the link, and then to use Windows integrated authentication, ensure that the deployment share is on a Windows server in the IIS manager. Locate and expand web hosting your deployment share. I think I think maybe it is not through IIS, or this MDT is not through IIS. Click on the same name of the deployment share. Okay, IIS, locate and expand the website hosting your deployment share. I don't think that that MDT have or it is using IIS. I don't think so. Anyway, if he's saying that, maybe he is correct. I don't have an idea, because I didn't see that, or I didn't play with this setting before. And click the name of the deployment share in the home panel. Double click authentication, select anonymous authentication and click disable. Here we can see that select Windows authentication and click enable. Please note that these are general steps and might need to be adjusted based on your specific environment and configuration. Always ensure to test changes in a controlled environment before applying them to your production. So this is another good advice to test the setting before implementing in the production environment. Also keep in mind that while these methods increase security, they do not provide absolute protection. Anyway, if you are doing the deployment in a closed environment, uh, for example, you don't have internet access, or there is no internet access to these machines or to your domain, so I think we can bypass these recommendations because it is a closed environment. Anyway, so we can see also here that he's giving us the links. Another good thing when you are using this kind of AI, the links that he is getting his information from, this is not done in Google Bard, or it's not done in Claude 2 AI. So this is one thing that makes me use Copilot, but it is not, it doesn't give a good answer. It's like you are searching in a search engine. It's not that convincing. It's not that simple. Okay, so here we can see that this is a link to do so. So we can ask him another answer. Does the MDT, another question, does the MDT use IIS uh, for deployment? Let's see if he can give me a straight answer. I think let's see if he is using a website. Yes, can use for deployment, especially when using web services. Web services are so and so. Using a web service in MDT requires that you have enabled web services. However, it's important to note that IIS is not required for all MDT deployments, but some specific scenarios. So I think this is not by default. Okay, let's ask him another question. Is the IIS used by default when installing MDT, and what is the method used for deployment? Let's see. Is not installed by default. You can install Microsoft Toolkit. It's only required if you are using web services in your deployment. As for the deployment methods, these are the scripts. Okay, these methods used for deployment depends on specific needs. So I think it doesn't use or they are not a website. So connecting to the MDT or the welcome wizard or the wizard of MDT, it is not a website. These are scripts and it is running from a folder. I think it will not use IIS. Anyway, so we can see that we can modify the answer, or we can ask questions based on the answer and then make a comment to give us another answer, or to correct the answer, or to give us more information. So we can see this how we can secure the bootstrap.ini and custom setting.ini. So this is basically very good answer. So let's continue and go further. So we have discussed the bootstrap.ini basically through three AI tools. Let's go to the custom setting.ini. So the custom setting.ini, here we can see that the first thing, the priority is to use the sequence ID, okay, and the default. So here we can see that the setting, it will go to uh, it will use two things. It will process the default section. If you can go there, it will process the default section and the sequence ID, which are the three. These are the sequence ID. So the first priority is two, or it will process the sequence task ID and then the default setting. The task sequence ID, basically it will search for the task that you have chosen. So for example, we have the first task is to deploy Windows 10. If you choose this one, okay, it will go and insert the product key for the Windows. This is the first thing. And the machine that we will implement the image on, it will join the domain, and I'm telling him to put it in a certain folder in the Active Directory. So when you choose the task sequence, it will see if it is this task sequence or this task sequence or this task sequence. If this is the first one you have chosen, then it will put this product key for the Windows 10 Pro, and then it will join the machine and put it in this OU. Okay, if this is the second one, which is for Windows 10 LTSC, it will join it and join it to domain and put it in this location. It will not insert a key because I have already done this. As for the Windows Server, if you choose the Windows Server deployment task, it will put this key and then it will put it in a different OU than the workstation. So here we can see these are two workstations that will be put in an OU called the terminals. As for the server, it will be in another OU called mainframes. So this is basically the setting. It will first process the task sequence ID, the three, and then it will begin deploying the default setting. Let's go to the default setting. First thing, OS install, yes. So I'm telling him to install the capture image. This is yes, okay. Deployment type, this is a new computer. This is not an upgrade. This is a new computer. And the name of the task, or this is a displayed name. It is not the name of the task sequence. This is a description. deploy a Windows image. As for the task sequence name, it will get it from here. Okay, so this variable, it will go and check these three task sequence. If you choose this one, then it will be put here. Okay, task sequence name. Okay, or I think this is not, this is task sequence ID, by the way. What it will do, it will check the task sequence name, it will check the ID, and then it will get its coordinated, or it will get its accompanied name, because every task we will create, it will have an ID and the name. So it will get the task sequence name through the task sequence ID. Okay, so basically this is correct. Skip task sequence, no. Why? Because we will choose the task sequence. Skip computer name, no, because we will uh, put the name of the computer by ourselves. We will put it manually. Okay, skip domain membership, no. Skip membership, yes, because here we will provide the credentials that we will be used to join the PC to the domain. So if we tell him skip membership, no, we are prompted to give a username and the password that will be used to join the PC to the domain. So now we are telling him skip domain membership, and then these are the credentials. Skip product key, yes, because we have already provided this key before. Okay, and then if we continue working with it, skip local selection. This is for the keyboard, because we have already tell him to use English United States keyboard. Okay, and skip the time zone, because we have tell him to use Egypt Standard Time. Okay, skip roles, we will not install any Windows roles. Skip application, no, because we will be given a list with the additional applications that we can install. Remember that in the deployment process, we have additional software that we can install. For example, maybe you need to install Office, you need to install Firefox, you need to install Chrome. So we'll have a list of programs to choose from to install these programs on the captured image of the Windows 10. Remember, the captured image already have some programs installed, but if you need additional, you will be given a list to choose from. Then this is the WSOS server. Again, we will tell it to update the PC through the WSOS, and then skip admin password. This is the local admin password. We have already provided him with a local admin password, or the local administrator password. So this is it. We have provided it for him. Then skip capture, because this is not a capture process. Okay, skip capture, do capture, no. Okay, skip computer backup, yes, because we are not backing up. Skip user data, we are not migrating or not upgrading. And at the end, we will put the logs concerning this process in the deployment share logs folder. Okay, and the last thing, these settings are related to the display resolution of the screen, because Daniel brother have discovered that when you put the resolution of the screen when you are using the deployment, when you are using the MDT wizard in certain setting, it maybe will crash or something. So he's giving it certain resolution. And then at the end, tell him to skip the summary. This is not good. You can tell him to provide you with the summary of the process of the deployment. So here you're telling him to skip the summary, hide shell, no, skip final summary. So here you are telling him to skip the summary completely, the summary of the process of the deployment. Okay, and the finish action is to reboot the PC, and then through this URL you can monitor the process as a whole. So you can go to any PC in your network and type this URL. You can monitor the whole process through this URL. Okay, and basically this is all of the process, or this is all of the custom setting.ini. You can see this is basically very simple. If you go to Claude and tell it to explain this process, okay, here I'm telling to explain this custom setting.ini, let's see what is the answer. Here we can see, here is a simple explanation. Here, setting section specifies the task sequence ID setting will override default setting, because this is the first to be processed task sequence ID. This is the first thing, sets the product key and OU pass for Windows 10 Pro x64-bit task sequence. Okay, this is basically correct. Set the OPAS and OU the same. Set the pass and product key. Default section provides the default setting. Here we can see the default. Install operating system, join domain, Skynet.internal using admin account, not the admin account, Active Directory account. Set language, keyboard, and time zone. configure WSOS server admin password, local admin password, skip prompts for product key and computer name, etc. Configure deployment logs, correct. Resolution, skip summaries, reboot after deployment, send status to web service or web server, okay. So in summary, it is configuring the default OS deployment setting like join domain, local keyboard, and specify custom setting per task sequence like product key and OU paths. So this is basically the answer of Claude, and it is not that much. If we go to again, if we go to Google Bard, let's see what was the answer of Google Bard. If you go there, I have given him the same one, okay? Explain this custom setting in simple terms. Here's a simplified explanation. Let's see what Google Bard has to say about that. If we tell him to listen.
Sure. Here is a simplified explanation of the custom settings link to .ini file. This file tells the computer what settings to use when installing Windows. General settings. The computer will use the task sequence ID property to determine which task sequence to run first, and then fall back to the default task sequence if no task sequence ID is found. The computer will skip the welcome screen during the installation process. Operating system settings. If the computer is being installed with Windows 10 Professional x64, it will use the product key W269NWFGWXYVC9B4J6C9T83GX. If the computer is being installed with Windows 10 LTSC-X64, it will use the product key VDYBN27WPPV4HQT9VMD4VMK7H. If the computer is being installed with Windows Server 2022 Standard, it will use the product key VDYBN27WPPV4HQT9VMD4VMK7H. All computers will be joined to the domain, Skynet, internal. The domain administrator username is MDT, build, and the password is SARC_2022. The computer will use the US English locale and time zone. The computer will install all applications that are included in the task sequence. The computer will use the WSUS server at link to SKNHQMF01, 8530 to download updates. The computer will automatically log in to the domain after the installation is complete. Display settings. The computer will use a 32-bit color depth, a 60 Hz refresh rate, and a resolution of 1 by 1 pixels. Other settings. The computer will skip the summary screen after the installation is complete. The computer will hide the command shell window during the installation process. The computer will skip the final summary screen after the installation is complete. The computer will restart after the installation is complete. The computer will send event logs to the event server at link to SKNHQMF01, 9800. I hope this is helpful.
Well, it is not correctly, or it explains it, but not, it is not as a whole correct. There is something here not explained, or it is not a correct answer, or it is not 100% correct answer, okay? Because here it tell him to choose task sequence, show if the computer used the task sequence property to determine the task sequence to run first. This is not it, because you are choosing the task sequence. The computer will not use the task sequence. You, the one that you will choose the task sequence anyway. So this is not a good answer. Maybe it explains a part of it, but not as I suppose, or it is not as Claude. Let's see if Copilot, how it will explain it. Just a moment. So let's copy it and then let's go to Copilot and tell it to explain this. And here you go. Okay, okay, this is a very short answer. Let's see here. Here is saying that the custom setting that you have provided uh, you are shared is a configuration file used by Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. It's used to control the behavior of the deployment process. Here is a simple explanation. Setting and default sections in the .ini file. Setting and default are sections in .ini. Okay, this is correct. The priority task sequence ID and default under setting means that the setting under task sequence and default sections will be applied in order. So he's saying that task sequence will be uh, processed first and then the default setting will be processed second. As for the other sections like product key, machine OU, OS install, deployment type, join domain, domain admin, admin password, time zone, WSOS server, SSL share, bits per so, all of these are variables, or these are sections in the custom setting.ini are all setting that control various aspects of the deployment process, such as the product key to use, the organization unit to join in the Active Directory, whether to install the OS, the type of the deployment, domain information, admin local admin password, time zone, the WSOS server, log share or log server, screen resolution, and what action to take up upon finishing the deployment, which is a reboot, by the way. The skip setting control whether certain steps in the deployment whether are skipped. For example, skip product key. Okay, this means that the product key in the wizard will be skipped because we have already provided it before. As for these sections, are specified settings that apply when the corresponding task sequence is used. So this is correct. This was not said by Google Bard. Okay. For example, when you deploy Windows 10 Pro, the setting under so will be used. So please note that storing the password in plain text, again, he's saying that you should not store passwords in the custom setting.ini and bootstrap.ini in plain text. Let's see if we tell him to, I need more detailed answer. Okay, let's see him tell him detailed answer. Okay. So here he got, we searched this website, or they searched the page of Google Bar. This was not my this is not was not my intention. So let me do something here. Let me tell him to copy. I will copy this answer. Tell him to explain, or no. Okay, let's again copy this and tell him to uh, explain in details. Let's copy and paste and tell him not explain. Explain in simple terms. Let him tell me explain something in simple or and detailed detailed or let's say not in simple terms. Control Z. Let's him to explain this in detailed answer. Detailed answer. And let's see. Again, he's giving us the same answer, even though we have changed the way that we are asking it. Again, not the answer that I was hoping to get from it. Anyway, you can see this is very simple. You can get the answer from more than one AI, and we can see even you can get it from Google Bard. There is a lot of answers you can get it. You can get it in three, or it will give you three answers. Okay, so anyway, we have already uh, tell it to discuss this setting. Okay, so the next thing is to discuss the deployment. So here we need to deploy, or we need this is the deployment of Windows 10, uh, or this is the task sequence that we will create to deploy Windows 10. And the same for the Windows Server, by the way. They have common answer, or they have common steps. So uh, we will only discuss with deployment of Windows 10 tasks. So let's go and see Claude have to say about this task. So here we have given him the task and tell him to explain it, and let's see uh, what it will say. Here is a simple explanation of this MDT task sequence. It's doing initialization, prepares the deployment environment, pre-install steps. This is the pre-install steps before OS install, set power mode to high performance. Before telling Claude to explain it, let me explain it for you guys and then see the AI tools. Here, the first thing is to tell it to set high performance power mode. So you are deploying uh, the operating system or the captured image on a laptop. So if this laptop, uh, it should its power mode to be high performance, because the deployment needs a lot of power battery, or a power battery. So you need to make sure that your laptop, it is not set to use balanced power mode, or power saving power mode. And you need, of course, to put your laptop, or because Daniel is deploying it on a laptop, so you need to have your laptop on the current, or not to be on the battery. So let's see, or let me show you all something here. We have more than one power plan. If you go to there, this is the power options. We will see that here that we have 3 power plans: balanced, automatically balanced performance with energy consumption. This is basically when you are using your laptop on battery, so it will balance between the power consumption and the performance. This is why you are using the battery. Power save, if you are also using the battery, but you need to conserve or reducing your computer performance, save energy by reducing computer performance. So this is not used most of the time. As for the last one, is the high performance, favors performance but may use more energy. So you will put your laptop on this high performance. So basically now I am putting my laptop on the current, or on my power adapter, and it is balanced. Okay, so here no, we need to be a high performance. Okay, so what do you need to do? We need to put the laptop on high performance, and to be it on the current, or to be in the power adapter, or to use the power adapter, not the battery. And then we can see that BitLocker, it is not enabled, and this section is to tell it to get some drivers, or some driver models. For example, if I'm using Lenovo, I tell it to go and install the Lenovo drivers. Okay, inject drivers, nothing, because we have done this in the previous step. Applying batches, okay, we will not do that, because in the custom settings section we are telling it to communicate with the WSOS, so we don't need to do that. In post installation, so all of these are not necessary. Remove network prompt. So here, this is one thing. When you join the domain, you will have a prompt asking it to choose the network type, if it is domain, if it is private, or it is public. We need to remove this one. We don't need the user to choose the network type. This will be done using a group policy or other things. So we are removing the network prompt. You are not be prompted to choose your network location, if it is a domain, or it is a private network, or it is a public network. This uh, we are using this registry key to remove this prompt. And then again, to set the high performance power, after we have done, we do this a couple of times, okay, to set the high performance power mode, and then install big info. We remember that big info, it is a utility that you will use to display some setting like that. This is power, this is big info. It will display the name of the PC and some important data as a background. Okay, so this is the setting. We will install it and then apply a registry setting. This is some registry keys that will force a certain screensaver, the one with the Terminator. Remember the one that I have my lab as a logo. This is the Terminator a Terminator with a red eye, and we have something called Skynet. So this, we will enforce this lock screen through the registry edits and then sync the time with the server. Here I'm telling it to sync the time of the PC with the MDT server. And by the way, the MDT server will have its time synced with the domain controller. So you can tell it to directly sync its time with the domain controller or sync it with the MDT, which has already its time synced with the domain controller. Then convert to enterprise. This is a simple registry key that we will use to convert the pro to enterprise, and then restart. This is the last thing. And then another thing called start menu layout. This is a script that will customize these start menu. Here is the start menu. It's a script to customize the start menu, to remove some tiles, to make this the start menu in a certain order or in a certain way. Okay, so this is also another registry key. Then hide public net user.dat. It here will hide something called public. Okay, if we go and see where is the public, if you have any user created on the Windows, it will create something called user profile. This user profile is saved here, users, and then the name of the profile. For example, I have a username called Karim. This is my profile. It will be saved to see users. As for public, this is if, for example, you need to put a certain document to be seen by all users on this PC, you can go to the public and tell him public documents, public downloads, public music, public pictures, public videos. So all of these are shared folders. If you need to have a certain document to be seen by all users, you can go and put it in C users public. If you need to see a certain download, you can go to see users public downloads, music, pictures, videos. So this is, we should not let the users see this profile or this folder, because they will anyone that can use this folder uh, to put things other users does not want to see. So we are telling him to hide this folder. Okay, so this is basically the last thing, to hide this folder, and this is the script to do that. And then to set the power mode to balance it, because after implementing the image and installing the programs, we will return to the normal balanced power mode. We don't need high performance, because maybe unplug it from the power adapter. So we are telling him to return to the balanced power mode and then enable BitLocker. If you need to enable BitLocker, you can do that, and to wait until all of the hard disk is encrypted. Wait for BitLock process until, or this is something to put in the task to tell him to wait until or not continue the task sequence until the BitLocker is finished. So this is simply the deployment of Windows 10, and the same for the Windows Server. By the way, they have the same setting, nothing changed. So let's see Claude has to say about it. So he was saying that initialization prepares the deployment environment, pre-install steps before OS install, set power mode to high, specify driver group to inject, no patches to apply, install OS, post install steps after OS install, apply any patches non-specified, restore user state, remove network prompt on first login. This is, we have already done it. Gather info about target computer, set power mode to high, install big info to show system info on desktop. That's we have seen this. Opt is sending it into Microsoft. Apply registry edits, sync time with server, convert OS to enterprise, restart computer, custom tasks, configure start menu layout, hide default public user profile, set power mode to balanced, enable BitLocker, wait for BitLocker to finish encrypting. In summary, it covers pre-OS and post-OS configuration, driver injections, joining domain, setting like power and time sync, enabling BitLocker. Okay, so this is the explanation of uh, Claude. Let's see Google Bard has to say about this or to explain it. Here we will see that he's giving us some explanation. Let's see what is the explanation of Google Bard.
Sure, here is an explanation of the deployment MDT task sequence in simple terms. This task sequence describes the steps that will be taken when deploying a new Windows computer. Initialization. This step prepares the computer for the installation process. Pre-install. This step performs any tasks that need to be done before the operating system is installed, such as setting the power mode to high performance. After gather local only. This step performs any tasks that need to be done after the computer has gathered information about its hardware and software, such as setting the power mode back to balanced. Set driver group. This step tells the computer which drivers to use for its hardware. Inject drivers. Nothing. This step does not inject any additional drivers. Apply patches. Nothing. This step does not apply any patches. State restore. This step restores the computer's state to a known good point. Remove network prompt. This step removes the network prompt that appears when the computer is first started. Install BG Info. This step installs BG Info, which is a tool that can be used to gather information about the computer. After opt-in to CEIP and WER, this step performs any tasks that need to be done after the user has opted into the Customer Experience Improvement Program, CEIP, and Windows Error Reporting, WER. Sync the time with the server. This step synchronizes the computer's time with the time server linked to 192.168.1.15. Convert to Enterprise. This step converts the computer to the Enterprise edition of Windows. Restart. This step restarts the computer. Custom tasks. This step performs any additional tasks that need to be done, such as hiding the public NTUSER DAT file and enabling BitLocker. Wait for BitLocker checked. This step waits for BitLocker to be checked and enabled. I hope this is helpful.
Even though it is not explained in order, but it's done the trick and explained what we need to know, but I need to see if Copilot will explain it in more details. Just a moment. So let's see how Copilot will answer, or we will explain this one. Okay, let's see here the answer, but I think this answer is good as far as I have read it. We can see here this is a task sequence you have shared in a series of steps that MDT executes in a specific order to deploy an operating system. Here is a simple explanation. Initialization step, this is the start of the task sequence. Pre-install, this phase includes tasks that occur before the operating system is installed, such as partitioning the hard disk. So basically a good answer. Set high performance power mode. The command sets the power plan to high performance to ensure the deployment isn't slowed down by power saving features. Good one. Driver group 001, this is a variable used to specify the location of the drivers to be installed. Inject drivers, nothing. This indicates that no drivers are injected at this state. Apply patches, nothing. This indicates that no patches are applied at this state. State restore, this phase includes tasks that occur after the operating system is installed, such as applying, setting, and installing applications. Good one. Remove network prompt. This command disables the new network found prompt. Okay, this is a good one. Install big info. This steps install big info, a tool that displays system information on the desktop background. We can see very good answer, by the way. I think it is better than Google Bard and Claude. Okay, apply registry setting. This step applies any specified registry setting. Sync the time with the server. This command synchronizes the time with a specified server. Okay. Convert to enterprise. This step upgrades the Windows Edition to enterprise. Restart. This step restarts the computer. Custom tasks. This section includes any custom task specified by the user. Start menu layout. This step applies a specified start menu layout. Hide public netuser.dat. This command hides the netuser.dat file in the public user profile. This is basically hiding all of the public user folder. Set balanced power mode. This command sets the power mode of the system to balanced. Enable BitLocker. This steps enable BitLocker driver encryption. Wait for BitLocker check. This step pauses the task sequence until BitLocker encryption is completed. Very, very good answer. Please note that the exact behavior of the task sequence can vary depending on the specific configuration of your MDT environment. This is basically more near to my explanation. Both Google Bard and Claude not giving a 100% correct answer. So basically, this we have discussed the deployment or the deploy of bootstrap.ini custom setting deploy. Let's see how much time we have. So in the upcoming video, we'll begin practically creating this task sequence. Okay, we will create 3 task sequence, and we'll begin with the first one in the upcoming video to make this task sequence deploy Windows 10, and then we will make the deployment or another task sequence for deploying Windows Server. Hope this video informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.